Blackmail.
Bingo.
No. No, I can't do that.
The way I see it, you don't have a choice. You either take this minor fall, or you can forget about your internship. You can forget about your articles, and you can kiss your career goodbye.
Britain's top women's basketball team needs a little help.
We are looking for a song, kind of a rock and roll kind of song.
And we know just the people for the job.
They need to be lyrics that the crowd can join in. Come on, ideas.
Or at least they know just the people for the job. Can they rouse the Rebels?
I think this is going to be a good one, Rock.
Challenge.
Tune Team, tonight at 7 on BBC One Wales. This week on X-Ray, Tanny checks out cons and con men.
And I'll be doing it with the aid of the Duns, Wales's unluckiest family.
So, whether you're lucky or unlucky, know your rights. Stay sharp and don't get caught out. X-Ray, Monday night at 7 on BBC One Wales.
The news at 6 o'clock now on BBC One Wales with Fiona Bruce and Jamie Owen.
Keith Vaz, former Europe Minister, faces a ban from Parliament for a month. He was found guilty of lying to the Commons and abusing public trust. A breakthrough this evening in the strikes on South West trains. Combating credit card fraud, replacing signatures with a PIN number. Our biggest ever team prepares for the Winter Olympics, but will we bring back any medals?
In Wales today, fans call full-time on the committee men running Welsh rugby. Yours for 160,000. House prices continue to rise. What's yours worth? And we're behind the scenes in the search for baby Ollie's mum.
Good evening. The reputation of the former Europe Minister, Keith Vaz, was dealt a body blow today after MPs called for him to be banned from Parliament for a month. Their Ethics Committee found him guilty of giving misleading information and trying to obstruct a Commons investigation into his business affairs. The inquiry centred on his links to the wealthy Hinduja brothers, a year after the cash for passports affair that cost former Northern Ireland Secretary Peter Mandelson his job. More from Mark Mardell.
Once a rising star of Tony Blair's team, today Keith Vaz had to face up to a harsh judgment by his fellow politicians. But there was not a hint of contrition from Mr Vaz. He'd called in the media to say the punishment was disproportionate, the report a rush job.
I think that the process has not been fair, but I accept the process. I've made it very clear that I think that the elements of natural justice that I would have expected were not there.
In this latest report, Mr Vaz is found guilty of not declaring a donation from a company in 1993. The MPs say this isn't particularly serious, but he should have been more frank about it afterwards. They completely clear Mr Vaz of the allegation that he received payments from the wealthy Hinduja brothers in return for getting them British passports. But they say his wife's company, she's a solicitor, did get paid for above-board legal work. But Mr Vaz had claimed his family had not received any payments, and they condemn him for giving misleading information. Far the most serious complaint is that Mr Vaz's actions could have intimidated or undermined a witness. He had complained to police that this witness had telephoned his sick mother. The police and the committee found no evidence for this, and the MPs say that Mr Vaz had recklessly made a damaging allegation which was not true. Mr Vaz denies the call to police amounted to intimidation.
No, because if a call is made such as was made to my mother, it was important that that should have been done. And the police, as I've said, are going to look into it and going to interview her, which they have not done because she's been extremely ill.
But Leicestershire police say there are no plans to reopen the investigation, and they're satisfied no malicious calls were ever made to Mr Vaz's mother. So what are the fallout? Some will question Tony Blair's judgment.
I suppose really because the Prime Minister did back him, there will be questions asked as to whether or not now he has anything to say after having backed him before the last election.
This is the last report from Elizabeth Filkin, the current Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards. She's going early because many MPs thought she was too tough on them. Mr Vaz blames Mrs Filkin for his punishment and says he hopes when she's gone there'll be a new era of justice and fairness for MPs. That's one way of looking at it. Others fear kid gloves, cotton wool and no more reports like this. Mark Mardell, BBC News, Westminster.
So what's been the reaction in Mr Vaz's Leicester constituency? Let's speak to Laura Trevelyan, who's there. Laura, not quite lying to the Commons, but still very serious. How's this decision gone down with the people there?
Well, that's right, Fiona, not quite lying, but accused nonetheless of failing to live up to the very high standards MPs are expected to, and also of failing to cooperate with an inquiry. Quite interesting how it's gone down here. As one woman said to me, Mr Vaz has been a really excellent MP. He helped me when I was homeless, but if he's done something wrong, it's only right that he should be punished. But there is another, probably stronger prevailing view, which is that all these allegations have been knocking around for a long time. If they were really serious, Mr Vaz would have gone earlier. As one man said to me, I saw Mr Vaz walking down the street holding a lollipop. Now, he wouldn't be doing that if he'd done something really wrong, would he? However, the local paper, the Leicester Mercury, they take a different view. They regard this report as really damning.
And Laura, what about Tony Blair? How embarrassing is this for him, given that he very much backed Keith Vaz at the time?
He did, and of course don't forget that when Tony Blair became Prime Minister, he said he wanted his premiership to really mark a break with the Conservatives, who were often marred in accusations of sleaze. Mr Blair said he wanted his ministers, his MPs, to really adhere to the very highest standards. And here you have someone, a former minister in Tony Blair's government, who, as you said, was backed absolutely by Tony Blair at the time, now being fined by a committee of MPs, who frankly are not normally the harshest judges. Fellow MPs have actually said they think Mr Vaz really hasn't behaved as well as he might have done. So, of course, it is embarrassing for the Prime Minister. OK, Laura, thanks very much for that. Now, a breakthrough tonight in the strike that's crippled much of the rail network in southern England in recent weeks. In the last few minutes, the RMT's announced it's suspending its strikes planned for South West trains next week, pending further talks with the rail operator. Rory Kettlin-Jones is at the union's headquarters in central London. Rory, this has just happened. What more can you tell us about it?
Fiona, Vernon Hints of the RMT union came out of this building in the last few minutes to announce, yes, that those strikes were being suspended next week. This follows the receipt of a letter yesterday from South West Trains. Now, that letter did say that the 2001 pay deal, over which there's so much dispute, that stood. There was no changing that, but it promised talks on how conditions might be improved for guards in the future. And the union has latched onto that, said, well, there are talks there, there's the possibility of movement, we're going to go for that, we're calling off the strikes for the time being.
So, Rory, is this a climb down by the unions?
Well, it certainly feels that way. The company is certainly interpreting that way. One official within the company said they've blinked. There was already a feeling at South West Trains that union members were growing tired of this dispute. They felt that people might be inclined to come back. The union, of course, is denying that, says there are talks, and that's what it's been looking for all along. But it's worth stressing that South West Trains so far has made no concessions.
OK, Rory, thanks very much. The key witness at the Damilola Taylor murder trial has denied telling lies to the police in order to get a £50,000 reward. Earlier, the jury was shown videotapes of police interviews with a 14-year-old in which she was seen singing, "I'm in the money."
Defence barrister Courtney Griffith's hostile questioning has twice this week led the 14-year-old witness to storm out of court. Today, both barrister and witness were more subdued, but the questioning was no less probing. The witness was asked repeatedly about a £50,000 reward offered by a national newspaper. Courtney Griffiths, addressing the young witness who was hidden behind a curtain, said she'd spoken of it 5 times to police. He asked, if the money wasn't so important to you, why did you keep mentioning it? She replied, because I was joking about. Later he said to her, you can buy a lot of trainers with £50,000. The young witness said, but I wouldn't end up wearing half of them. Mr. Griffiths then put it to the witness with disbelief in his voice. So if the newspaper said we're not giving you the money, that wouldn't bother you? No, she said, I don't want the money. If they offered me the money, I wouldn't take it. The young witness, who says she was at the murder scene near the North Peckham estate, admitted she'd lied about knowing two of the defendants, who are 16-year-old brothers, well. The girl also said it was her imagination that she'd seen Damilola crawling towards her after the attack. Courtney Griffiths put it to the girl that she'd told a string of lies to get the reward money. Closely watched by the jury, she denied the accusation. She's due to return to court on Monday. Rita Chakrabarti, BBC News at the Old Bailey.
The cashless society could soon be a signature-free zone. Britain's credit card companies have unveiled plans to do away with signing receipts. Instead, you'll key your PIN number in at the till. From 2005, we'll join the rest of Europe, where the practice is already widespread. The banks hope it'll cut fraud by half, but it'll cost the industry more than £1 billion over the next 3 years. Let's talk to our business correspondent, Jenny Scott. Jenny, how is this going to work?
Well, Fiona, there'll be nothing new about this bit. You'll get your shopping as usual, take it to the till, the cashier will swipe it through. But this is where it'll look a little bit unfamiliar. At some point in the next 3 years, we'll all be sent new credit and debit cards with a computer chip like this one on it, containing information about that PIN. When you come to pay, you just put it into this machine, you type in your 4-digit PIN number here, press enter, and that's it, all paid for. Now, as you said, this system is supposed to be introduced by 2005. For the first year, you'll still be able to sign for your shopping like you do now and use the PIN number just until we all get familiar with it. But after that, you will have to remember your PIN number. Now, just talking to shoppers here this evening, there are clearly some concerns about the new system, not least the security of this.
If it does cut down on fraud, yes, I would be comfortable using it, but who's to say that it will?
I think it's a different opportunity for people to be able to get money, defraud you.
I don't know, it depends. Yeah, if I can remember my PIN number.
These badges are for?
It means facts, not prejudice.
Judge for